Welcome to another digital marketing deep dive. Today we're going to be taking a look at the digital marketing behind the success of Rocket Mortgage. Rocket is a US mortgage behemoth. Total 2024 revenue of $5.1 billion, and that's a 34% increase year on year. So it's safe to say that something's going right over at Rocket Mortgage. Today though, we're going to be taking a look at the digital marketing that is fueling this extraordinary growth. And by the way, whether you're in mortgages or not, there are some really great lessons here on what it takes to grow a company like this using digital. But first, let's start with the obvious. Rocket Mortgage is spending big, about $824 million a year on marketing and advertising. Now, according to my calculations, this is about 16% of their revenue, which is quite an extraordinary amount for a company of this size, but it's obviously working. And it reminds me a little bit of Hims and Hers, which we looked at in a previous video, another company investing vast amounts of money in their marketing and getting extraordinary growth as a result. So where exactly is that spend going? Well, some of it is going on TV and radio, though that is diminishing. A lot of it is going into digital. Now, of course, all of that marketing and advertising spend is designed to do one thing: funnel people towards Rocket's website. So luckily for them, their website is really good. Nice and simple. As we'd expect above the fold, we've got a nice big clear CTA here. But the thing I really like about Rocket's website from a marketer's perspective is they are so clear on the proposition, not just for their business, but for every single product and service that they offer. They could have said in this button here, I'm looking for a mortgage, but they add save up to $10,000. They also link out to their real estate arm, giving sellers an option here. But rather than just saying sell your home, they say I'm selling, get 0.5% back. These might look like really small additions, but to me this shows that they've thought so clearly about how each of their products is differentiated against competitors. And we see this clarity elsewhere on the site. Each of the explanations for their different products is really clear, simple, and very customer focused. They don't use a lot of words, and the words that they do use are really well thought through. But of course, the success of this website really hinges on how many people they can get to start their application. Let's see how many times this option appears on this homepage. Firstly, we've got this CTA button in the top right hand corner. Secondly, if you go buy and then get started, that also takes you to this option. Then we've got this button here, this button here. These are CTAs for alternative products. Then we've got another CTA here. Remember, as we're scrolling down, we can still see this top CTA, a CTA for a related product, and then just in case you missed them, a couple more CTAs. Now, all of these CTAs lead through to a really simple form, and this is basically a lead capture form. It takes you through a few initial questions and then wants to capture your details so that they can start working with you on your mortgage. Now, that's all well and good, but to be honest, I would love to see them adding a bit of credibility or an incentive to keep people moving through this process. For example, a testimonial on the side. You could have a little slider that has testimonials of people who've been through the process and are really happy with their mortgage. Because at the moment, this page is a little bare and there's no alternative options. So you're either going to finish doing this or you're going to bounce away and be lost forever. But I think the main takeaway from Rocket's website is just how clear they are with that value proposition. If every client came to us with such a clear value proposition, our job as marketers would be a lot easier. In fact, this is such an important piece of work that when we have a client that comes to us that isn't 100% clear on their proposition, we actually run something called the Brand and Positioning Accelerator, where we take them through a bit of a process to figure this stuff out. Figuring out why people buy from your business, why they buy particular products and services, so we can work out what messages are most likely to resonate with them and then use those messages throughout the website. And we find that this type of activity really improves the conversion rate of the website, but also generates more of the right type of leads and sales. Okay, so that's the website. How are they driving traffic to it? Well, according to SimilarWeb, the majority of the traffic is direct, i.e. this is people typing the Rocket website URL into their browser. This is pretty unsurprising for a business like this that's going to get a lot of repeat people coming back to the site to check in on their application, continue the process, or use the customer portal. There is also going to be a portion of this direct traffic that is driven through a lot of the brand marketing that they do on other channels like TV, like the Super Bowl. But that's people that already know about Rocket Mortgage. Many of the fastest growing companies get that speed because they're able to get in front of so many people who don't yet know about them and insert themselves into that buying process. So the next top three traffic channels are organic traffic, which means organic search, referral traffic, which means people coming from other websites, and then paid search traffic as well. We're going to take a look at each of these in turn, starting with the top source of non-direct traffic, organic. I'm going to use SEMrush for my analysis of this piece. Now, SEMrush have given me free access to the tool to use in the videos, but to be honest, I'd have used it anyway. It also meant that we could negotiate a free trial for you. So if you want to try out SEMrush to do some analysis of your competitors or your own website, you can do that at thankyouninjas.com. Okay, so how is their organic search traffic and their SEO going? We can see from SEMrush that they're generating around 2.3 million monthly search visits, but this is actually trending down over time, as you can see. Now, part of this might be due to macro, part of this might be due to organic search volume being gobbled up by AI though, as we'll see in just a minute. If we take a look at the key pages which are driving that traffic, we can see that around 30% of all Rocket's traffic is coming through to its homepage, which is fairly typical for a site of this size with a lot of repeat visitors. We also see that their login page is the next major traffic driver as well, which reflects what we talked about earlier with people coming back to the site to log in. Elsewhere, the majority of the traffic is being driven by the informational pages on the website, this learn section. And if we go and have a look at the topic section inside SEMrush, we'll see the different categories of informational search terms that they're ranking for. So we've got stuff about mortgage and loan types. We've got stuff about home construction, things like modular homes, tiny house, how much does building a house cost. We've got real estate market conditions, and these are basically the different categories of information on their website. In fact, this entire learn section is really powerful. Now, these learn articles are pretty good. Here's an example of one of their learn pages for the FHA loan. Pretty good in depth. We've got a nice amount of information here. It could be broken up to make it a bit more engaging with a few more charts or images, but there's a lot of information here and there are some tables. It's also attributed to one of the staff at Rocket Mortgage, which, as you'll know, is really important because this is a financial query. This is financial content, and the type of thing that Google likes to see in this type of content is to make sure that it's being written by someone who actually knows what they're talking about. So the fact that we've got these author bios is kind of important. Now, unfortunately, Kevin doesn't have any qualifications or doesn't seem to have any sort of related financial qualifications, which may potentially damage him in this area, but at least they've got some sort of attribution there. Now, remember that organically they're driving about 2.3 million visits per month to this website. Well, this learn section is responsible for 1.4 million of those. So the vast majority of the non-branded search traffic is coming through this learn section. And there's lots of different types of articles here. Here's the main learn page. You can see they've categorized them into these different sections, and then inside each of these sections is lots more content about various different topics. And this is exactly the type of strategy that we often run with our clients. In fact, some of our mortgage clients, we've done exactly this, and it works really, really well, because it's a great way of getting visibility for these types of informational search. But this type of content can also be quite useful for the new generation of AI search. So when people are searching on ChatGPT or Perplexity or inside AI overviews, this type of content can be optimized to rank for those searches, which can also drive traffic as well. So that's all great, and on the surface it looks really good. But if we dig a little bit deeper, we'll see that actually Rocket is leaving quite a lot of money on the table. What I've done here is I've set up a search inside SEMrush to see the keywords that the Rocket site is ranking for, and I've added a filter to take away any branded traffic. In other words, I don't want to see people who are searching for Rocket Mortgage because they're going to find the website already. I'm interested in looking for people who don't yet know about Rocket or haven't thought about Rocket but are looking to make a purchase. So that's what we can see here, the different keywords that the site is ranking for, which exclude branded traffic. Now, what do you notice as we look through these? Aside from some fairly niche phrases like FHA loan, one of the things I notice is that whilst they're ranking for a lot of keywords, not many of these are actually particularly commercial in nature. And the ones that are commercial in nature, they're not ranking that well for. Let's take a look. So mortgage rates today, that could be someone who's interested in getting a mortgage, but the Rocket site is only ranking in the people also asked section. In other words, it's not one of the main search results. The same for FHA loan. This is a type of loan, so this is actually a really commercial term that should be really high value. But again, they're only ranking in the people also asked section. There is definitely some commercial visibility. Home appraisal, for example, they're ranking position 1. Mortgage for self-employed, also ranking position 1. But come on, this is Rocket Mortgage. They've just acquired another company, and between them, they will be responsible for 1 in 6 US mortgages. They should be dominating for really key commercial terms like mortgage calculator, get a mortgage, mortgage provider, mortgage. Commercial terms are really where it's at, and they should be super dominant for these phrases. In fact, let's do a quick interlude on the state of search to see how this is even more important going into the future. Now, as you may have heard, there is this little thing called ChatGPT, and rumor has it that ChatGPT has been gobbling up a lot of Google's organic search volume. But in Google's latest earnings report, which was released last night at the time of making this, Google's revenue from search was up double digits in that quarter. In other words, Google is making more money from search ads than ever. How can this be true if ChatGPT is also eating Google's search? Well, the clue is in the type of traffic that ChatGPT is eating. There's also a Google antitrust trial going on, and there's some really useful information coming out of that. For example, according to the information, ChatGPT has drawn away some search queries from Google. A senior Google executive testified on Wednesday, but primarily homework and math queries, which don't generate much in ad revenue. The executive said, "So far, we've not seen cannibalization of commercial queries or queries with commercial intent." i.e., whilst Google might be losing informational queries to the likes of AI, people are still going to Google to buy stuff. So really getting visibility on Google for commercial terms is absolutely where it's at. This is still the #1 most valuable real estate in the world, ranking prominently on Google for commercial searches, because that's still where people go if they want to buy stuff, including mortgages. And Rocket aren't doing well at this. Here's the traffic for their mortgage calculator page. This should be key for Rocket, because if people are looking to get a mortgage, they'll go to a calculator, and if they like the results of that, they'll proceed to a mortgage. But look at the traffic on this thing. It's falling off a cliff. Yes, it's ranking for the phrase mortgage calculator, but in position 40. Well, one of the reasons it's ranking so poorly might be that all the backlinks to it are total trash. There's a couple reasonable ones here. This is someone's personal blog, and this is a link from the National Housing Conference. But other than that, a lot of the links are from sites like this. Now, if we compare this to NerdWallet's mortgage calculator, which by the way is doing so much better in the rankings, look at the backlink profile here. We've got links from SEMrush, from real estate agents, from news sites, from lots of really high quality websites. Now, we're going to come back to NerdWallet later, because I think that they're doing a lot of the stuff that Rocket should be doing in SEO. But another reason that Rocket's rankings suck for commercial searches is that they actually don't have good pages on their website targeting these commercial searches. Let me give an example. If you're searching for mortgages, you would typically expect to see a mortgages page on the website that you're visiting, right? Because you want a mortgage. Google's going to say, well, this page is relevant for you because it's about mortgages. Well, bizarrely, the Rocket Mortgage website doesn't have a dedicated page for mortgages. This is kind of their mortgage page, but not really. If you click on buy a home, you get this page. We're here for you the whole way home. And then we've got a link to apply to buy a home, which is kind of the mortgage link, but they're also selling their real estate arm, their rent rewards product, and other stuff. This page just isn't well set up to rank for a term like mortgage or home loan. And that form that we talked about earlier, whilst it's great to drive people straight to a form, the trouble is this is the form that they're driving people to if they want to learn more about mortgages. There's no content on this form page. This is never going to rank for anything. So you need another page in front of this, which is designed to give people information and reassure them that Rocket is the right choice for them with their mortgage. Like I said earlier, Rocket should be dominating for these types of searches, and this could yield vast amounts of additional growth. Let's look at this keyword in particular, mortgage lenders. This is something that one of the largest mortgage lenders in the US should absolutely be crushing for, but they're just not. Look at this, the search results here. We've got a real mixture of sites here. We've got some banks, we've got some mortgage providers, real estate sites, and informational sites, but you have to scroll to page 3 to find Rocket Mortgage. Now, of course, the phrase mortgages or mortgage providers is ultra competitive, and if you're looking at this thinking about my business is never going to be able to compete for terms like this, that's okay. You don't need to compete for these absolute headline terms to do really well. In fact, we've got a client in the mortgage space that we've worked with for a long time, and they've done fantastically well by us targeting very specific types of mortgage. And we've helped them grow from 0 to 11,000 leads generated for mortgages by targeting very particular types of mortgage keyword. And by the way, if you're watching this thinking, wow, this looks really cool, I'd love to be able to do this for my business, our agency, Exposure Ninja, does this type of thing for medium and large companies. We help them dominate and grow quickly through search marketing. If this is something that you're looking to do, then you can contact us through our website at exposureninja.com. While you're there, you'll also be able to see a whole bunch of different case studies of clients that we've done this before. We've worked on some incredible campaigns and been responsible for some amazing growth, and we absolutely love search. So check us out at exposureninja.com. But all is not lost for Rocket. There is another really interesting lesson here. Let's look at the site that's ranking top for this phrase. Here's the NerdWallet page that's ranking top of Google for mortgage lenders, and guess what? Rocket Mortgage pulls it back by making sure that they're featured at the top of this page. Now, this is great. This is one of the things that we do for our clients, is get them visibility on other sites that are ranking well on Google, because that means if someone doesn't click on your website, if they click on someone else's website, they still might find you. It's a great thing. It also works really well for AI search as well, because lots of the AI tools look at sites like this when they're formatting their recommendations for people. But typically what you want to do is rely on your own ranking first and then use these third-party websites to supplement that. What you don't want to do is rely on this stuff so heavily, because each click from here is an affiliate commission that needs to be paid to NerdWallet. So Rocket Mortgage is essentially paying NerdWallet to rank above it in search because it can't figure out its own SEO for commercial terms. Of course, this type of thing can be much more expensive than just getting ranking yourself, but it can also work really well. And in fact, this referral strategy we can see Rocket is taking to the next level. It's just acquired property listing site Redfin for $1.75 billion, and you can bet your bottom dollar that there's going to be a whole bunch of referral links from Redfin to Rocket in the coming months. So what's the lesson here? Well, the lesson here is that being seen across lots of different websites can really help with your brand. Not to mention the fact that if you're being recommended by a third-party website, that can hold a huge amount of credibility, so that when that person clicks on that third-party recommendation and comes back to your site, you might notice they have a higher conversion rate. So absolutely do this. Absolutely get found across the web. It's one of the things that we do for our clients through digital PR. It's brilliant, but don't rely on that. You want to have your own organic ranking first and then use that additional referral traffic to supplement it. Okay, let's take a look at paid search, because it's another area that Rocket is going really hard. Granted, not as hard as they did previously. So we can see they're spending around $4 million a month on their paid search traffic, but this has been much higher in the past. Now, because they're facing a lot of competition for their own brand name, a lot of this budget is having to go to just defending that brand name. So we've got a lot of branded search traffic here. One of the most interesting things I think about this paid search strategy, though, is the landing pages that Rocket are using. And what you'll notice about the landing pages that they're using is that, as you can see in the URLs here, it's really this launchpad.rocketmortgage.com page. And it's pretty interesting because mostly this is just their apply for a loan form. They switch out the headline of the page depending on the ad copy, and you can see that they've got this little string here that tells them which version of the headline to run. So that's kind of tailored to the user, but there's no other information on this page. There's no credibility. If you don't want to go through this process right now, there's not really anything else that you can do other than give them a call, and that's quite a bold play. We see that they're using a version of this strategy for almost all of the traffic being driven to the site, and it's very bold bet. For example, if we go to second mortgage rates, now this is potentially quite an informational query. It's someone who's maybe doing a bit of research, but rather than going through to an informational page, we go through yet again to a version of this form which is designed to help people learn about today's rates and what you can save. But this really isn't tailored to the person who's looking for second mortgage rates. I'd love to know how much they're testing this. I can't believe that there's not a vast amount of wastage here, but then Rocket is growing quickly. But really the most frustrating thing for me about this pay-per-click campaign is that they're having to pour so much budget into ads, predominantly because they're not ranking for those search terms organically. They've basically been completely friend-zoned by Google. They've put all the work in producing this great content, and and Google's serving that up to users when they want some information. But when it comes time to get to business, when that customer's actually ready to make a purchase, Google's not serving up Rocket's site. Rocket's having to pay for the privilege of getting back in front of that user. And that's all because their organic search strategy hasn't done a good job of targeting commercial keywords. And that's really the lesson here for businesses of all shapes and sizes. Commercial search is where you can make so much money. Don't neglect it. It requires a very specific focus. Don't just focus purely on traffic volume coming in through informational search. You really do need to make sure that the people who are actually searching for things to buy are finding your website and your business. Another lesson, this one reassuring, is that you can win even if you're not doing everything perfectly. Look at Rocket's incredible growth, and yet they are still leaving tens of millions or even hundreds of millions of mortgages on the table every year because they're not doing a good job of this. They're having to spend millions of dollars a month on paid traffic that they arguably should be getting for free given their size, because they're not doing everything perfectly. Digital marketing can feel really overwhelming. How do I do everything, all of these different channels? Even Rocket doesn't have it nailed, and they're spending almost $1 billion a year on their marketing. As I said earlier, Exposure Ninja works with medium and large companies to help them dominate in search and grow rapidly through these types of strategies that we're talking about today. If that's something that you're interested in, you can contact us through our website, exposureninja.com. You can also, while you're there, check out a bunch of case studies and examples of times where we've done this type of thing for clients. Until next time, see you soon.